I come to you again, and I think this is 1,000,001 time. 1, stop giving people jobs that don't deserve. You're costing us more, and it's not worth it. 2, you can only stretch someone's payslip too far. You cannot keep targeting people who have pay slips for your taxes. It does not work that way. It's an injustice, and you need to stop, because that will not help you pay the debts that you're borrowing. 3, stop borrowing. You promised that you were not going to borrow from the word go. We cannot sit here and see IMF giving more money and more money to us, then you're planning on how to now start taxing the air we breathe, maybe. I don't know. But please stop it, because it's not taking us anywhere, and it's not going to lead anywhere. 3, taking our police to Haiti is not a solution for you to get more money from the West. Where am I saying this? We have not dealt with our own criminal gangs. We are not going to help Haiti. Those people who are funding Kenya to go to Haiti should take their policemen, their army, and whoever else if they feel that is a problem. We cannot be the African colonizers of the places that are more oppressed by the West. 4, right? Our education sector. Stop terrorizing our kids. You are messing with the education system by taking away the hope for that Mama Mboga you spoke about, that border person you spoke about, to take their kids to school and sustain them through the higher learning. We need to stop, and you need to wake up to the realization that your hustler narrative has been exposed. It's enough with the lies. Let us move to a better place. Come out and say, I can't. Kenyans will then figure out who can for them. And at the same time, with the same breath, I would say, stop planning to change the constitution, because that is not a solution. The solution lies with you actually implementing the constitution that lies there, and the policies and reports, like Omula said, that needs to be looked into. And finally, as a Kenyan citizen and a disappointed young Kenyan, you cannot keep giving us hustler narratives and acting tough when Kenyans are dying. Within 2 years, we do not know how many will survive. Within 2 years, we do not know how many more will have committed suicide. It is high time you wake up to the reality that since you live in State House and might not know what it costs to buy bread or buy tea or anything, you've been in government before for 10 years, and this time you have no excuse. Yours is different because you've tested it and you've known the worst of it. And you need to know that if you do not have a plan, we are headed nowhere. And treatments, a medical cover paid for by taxpayers who are getting 500 from your hustler fund kitty. It is not enough with whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Welcome to the bold analysis. Whenever William Ruto leaves this country, to attend to those international engagements on those foreign trips, there is a message that is normally left with Kenyans. And that message is that I am leaving the country to go and look for jobs. But if you happen and if you take time and follow up whether Ruto is actually out on seeking jobs for Kenyans, you will understand that that exactly is not the mission. And I want us to trace and track this narrative and what exactly Ruto does outside. I have seen memes, even people saying, there was one where he was in a plane and he was allegedly telling the driver, usizimishe hiyo ndege narudi tu sahi. There have been a couple of memes, and Kenyans are getting a little bit irritated by those foreign trips. So when Ruto left this country, when he was going to that Saudi summit, he said he was looking for jobs. He was going to look for jobs. Now recently, he was on attended a church service, I think in Bomet, and told Bomet residents that he will be leaving the country to Germany because the German chancellor had promised him some jobs and he was going to follow up on that. Get that?
Tumekubaliana vile vile na huyu mama wetu Bore, yuko hapa waziri wangu. Tumekubaliana na huyu Bore ya kwamba tuna sign bilateral labor agreements ili to export labor ya Kenya. Kila wiki tunataka export ya labor watu 3,000 ama 5,000 kila wiki waende wafanye kazi katika duniani kote, ndio waweze kutuletea pesa, wajisimamie, ndio tuweze kubadilisha Kenya. Ni mnanielewa? Hiyo kazi yote inahitaji mpango na inahitaji vile watu watashirikiana. Nimekuwa Saudi Arabia last week. Huyu waziri wangu amekuwa pale kwa balozi wa Saudi Arabia kwa sababu kuna vile tulikubaliana. Rais wa Ujerumani alikuwa Kenya karibu miezi 3-4 iliyopita. Leo usiku mimi naenda Ujerumani kwa sababu alituahidi ya kwamba tutapata nafasi ya ajira watu 200,000. Lazima niende nipange hiyo kazi. Rais wa kule Ufaransa vile vile kuna vile tumekubaliana. Viongozi wa sehemu mbalimbali. Mimi nikitoka Kenya, mimi siendi kazi ya utalii. Mimi naenda kazi ya wananchi wa Kenya. Kwa sababu najua nimechaguliwa kwa kazi gani. So mimi nataka niwaulize, hawa viongozi watafanya kazi yao. Tupange vile governor amesema hapa Bomet tunachenga county aggregation and industrial park.
Photos with the leaders of the directors of the World Bank. So that loan facility is that is the information that came out. And of course, the government team did not amplify that win, even though Ruto had gotten it, because it came in the backdrop of a narrative that we will not continue to borrow. And after that, he went to France. And the meeting in France, or rather the speech in France, was actually revealing, according to me, the main reason why William Ruto has been abroad. The main reason why Ruto has been abroad, why Ruto has been making this foreign foray, is some two agenda. Some fundraising, according to me, on some climate fund, and number two, some imaginary or elusive fight global financial fairness for the Africa. So he's been speaking mostly on behalf of Africa. And I wanted to listen to this video where he spoke in an event there, where he attended the European Union Parliament in France, and gave his speech, and he was given a standing ovation.
I could devote much more time to unfolding the vast richness of our continent. Yet, the path to realizing Africa's full potential is paved with significant challenges. Let's consider some sobering facts. In the last 2 decades, global investments in renewable energy soared to an impressive $3 trillion. But only a fraction of this, $60 billion, or just 2%, found its way to Africa, despite our enormous potential and urgent energy needs. A critical obstacle in this journey is the prohibitive high cost of capital. Private investors are demanding high premiums, in great part on perceived risks. Consequently, we are burdened with borrowing costs at least 5 times higher than those of advanced economies, creating a vicious cycle of debt. This disparity not only hinders our progress, but also makes any meaningful development financing unattainable. This situation is indefensible, both morally and economically, and changing it is possible. Changing it is possible, but it requires our collective will and resourcefulness. Above all, it requires new forms of cooperation that are based on mutually beneficial strategies. Europe has been an ally and a partner to Africa for many years, encompassing a broad spectrum of initiatives that are very important for our continent, from economic cooperation that fosters trade and investment, to the vital steps taken in energy and climate change through initiatives like the Africa-EU Energy Partnership, and we are making very steady progress in that direction. Our collective efforts in peace and security, notably supported by the African Peace Facility, have been influential in promoting stability across the continent. In education and research, programs like Erasmus Plus have opened new horizons for our youth, while joint efforts in health have underscored the importance of robust health systems. We are working together on migration management, focusing on issues such as combating human trafficking and addressing the root cause of irregular migration. And initiatives such as the Global Gateway have the possibility to open new avenues for cooperation. But we can and we must do more. Above all, we must remain alert to the risk of conflict, as tensions and disagreements can escalate rapidly with far-reaching and costly consequences. The conflict in the heart of Europe, something unimaginable in the 21st century.
Now, that was a statement in Bomet. You will understand that what happened during the whole week, the week that Ruto went to Germany. He went to Germany. Then after Germany, just attended some summit, some investment summit. And the only news that came back was that Kenya had been given some 1.8 trillion loan facility by the World Bank. And that is the meeting, like these photos you see here. So what happened there, William Ruto made a very good pitch. And in fact, I can tell you that those who are in the international, those who write these international speeches that he's doing internationally are they're very competent. The only problem is what to tell Kenyans. But when you want what to tell to Wazungus, I think they're normally well packaged. They're really good in terms of packaging. But when it's for Kenyans, that's where they cross. That's where they lose the plot. One thing I see clearly here is this: that what happened later is what will shock you. Allegedly, and one of the reasons why William Ruto has been making these foreign forays and the international platforms that he's been taking, I think he's come out boldly as the man to represent the African agenda, as the man to defend Africa. Now, when he was there, he made a request for the other European nations to support the Haiti mission that Kenya is going to lead, the mission that Kenya is going to lead in Haiti, that is the coming January. And again, he made the financial fairness for the African countries. So the next day, there was an election there was voting on some of the items that were proposed by William Ruto. And the irony here is, despite the fact that Muzungu came out and clapped, gave Ruto that standing ovation, and we saw UDA, the government bloggers, really amplifying this standing ovation, they voted against that proposal the next day. Now that shows you what, that shows you there's something I just realized in it. They acknowledged, of course, they acknowledged that Africa has been getting a raw deal in terms of the global financing. And I think at one point William Ruto was saying that we've been getting loans at an exorbitant rates compared to other European countries. And William Ruto has been vouching for the fairness, the fair proposition for fairness for the African countries. So he's been making, that speech was on the track here, on their representing the African track here. So next day they voted. And so what does that show you? It actually shows that clearly it was just a matter of, we've listened to what you are saying, it is a good idea, but we are not going to buy it. So, while asked in the country, we have been complaining and asking William Ruto that there is a tendency of the president leaving the country, especially when there are problems. After something kidogo, he leaves the country, then comes back, and that way. So what happened is that they actually rejected it. So in this podcast, I want to explain more, I want to interpret more on why this, just using that rejection, on why these foreign forays is actually just costing us more than what we are getting back, despite of a promise that, despite of a promise by Rigathi Gachagua that they will account for what have been used. Now, if you want to know that William Ruto do not want to amplify exactly his engagement outside the country. You know, when he came back, he attended an event by the Ministry of Health in Syokimau and was telling the country that he even cut short his trip abroad so that he could attend it. Now, I want you to listen to that.
I got a call from Minister Nakumicha, and she was very insistent that this function must go on. I now know why. I tried to explain to her that I was away, but I didn't manage. That's why I am very pleased to join you today for the launch of this state-of-the-art microbiology quality control laboratory here at MEDS, a facility that...
The reason why William Ruto is making that statement is because he wants to show that he's giving prominence, or rather is attaching some significance to what's happening in the country, contrary to what many people actually think. Now, these foreign forays are now currently being kept as a top secret, and they're just being made public because the public is asking, you know, but there is a way shrouded in some sort of secrecy. They will not even want the country to think of what exactly William Ruto is doing outside the country. And just to support this, remember that altercation between William Ruto and I think Macron and some representatives of the World Bank and IMF some time back. I think that was in France. This video really trended. Just get a snippet of that. So I will tell you, if you take time and study these foreign trips, you will understand that there is one thing. There is a difference. There is some difference with what Ruto is saying, is telling the masses in the country, is that I am leaving to look for jobs. This is because he wants to, he wants to present, he wants to justify the foreign trips as giving us those jobs, which probably if there is no problem. But contrary to that, in some of these foreign trips, even in Saudi Arabia, he did not go there with the CS in charge of labor. While he was in Germany and France, he was with the House leadership, the Ichungwa, the Arun Cheriot, and the Treasury CS. Those are the people who are there. And the only information that came up was about World Bank. So it is not very true that William Ruto is leaving the country to go abroad squarely to look for those jobs. It is not, because will the president carry a whole delegation to go and look for jobs while there is a minister? We have embassy, we have ambassadors in those countries, we have all, in fact the infrastructure is there. Are those jobs being given from the State House in Germany or the State House in France? It is not. We cannot make a state visit looking for jobs. And I want to tell you clearly why these foreign trips are actually kept, the real mission is kept a secret. Number one, I think much of the income, not income, but much of the benefits that is received from these foreign travels are not going to be, is supposed to evade the public accountability. And this is what I mean. I want to tell you, if there is any money that was given to Kenya, which I believe there have been, the way we planted trees on the climate space, that money cannot be made public. It cannot be made public because it needs to be centralized amongst those in power. So one of the reasons why, despite of all these travels and the complaints from the public, you will be told so many things of things we are going to get and things we are not going to get. The reason why it is kept a secret is because what comes here the public should not know. They should not. Number two, I just want to take the other reason is what Cherargei is saying about Murkomen. Cherargei is telling us that when Murkomen went to China, he was given some bribe of is it 100 million euros? Is it 100,000 euros? Dollars? Huh? $100 million or something, amounting to around 15 billion from China, so that he could give China some projects in the country, some road projects that were going on in the country. So that exactly is it. The delegation that goes with William Ruto is not a delegation that is out there to, it's not a job negotiation team. You have David D, you have Treasury, you have Ichumwa, you have Arun Cheriot. Are those people going to negotiate for any job? It is not. And if you want to know, what's happening is just deal making. And deal making is to make them above board. Remember when Raila raised the question about why aren't we not getting the details of G2G? There was one word that has been used, and of course the public cannot understand it. The public cannot interpret it well, even me cannot, that the G2G was above board. So above board to mean that it cannot be explained to the public or something. Now, those are the two reasons why those has been kept secret. Now, why are we spending a lot of time outside the country to push this climate and this global loan fairness agenda? Well, back in the country, William Ruto believes that our blueprint is to ensure that we stop borrowing, or even if we don't stop, we reduce. We reduce borrowing so that we can have more of our money, we can collect locally and serve our budget from it. So, as a country, our blueprint is to reduce borrowing, even though it's a blueprint in the campaign trail. But when people retreat back to office, it's not the real thing. So why is it not coming out? Why is it getting rejected? Number one, Europe knows very well that Africa must depend on them. And in fact, the reason why Africa cannot get the fair financial, the fairness and the justice in the global financial regime is because we are supposed to, Africa is endowed with a lot of resources. And industrialization, majority of those industries that are maybe utilizing the raw materials in this Africa are actually owned by Europeans. So they cannot support Africa to the core because we are supposed to remain as the colonies. And so, even the choice of picking William Ruto to drive this agenda, even if it was within the African trachea, I think it was a bit misguided. But I believe that what triggered it is the eloquence and the good speech. Ruto is a very good speech maker, especially on some of these issues. So he was picked as the Mr. Africa, Mr. Nice of Africa, to drive this agenda. But I want to believe, if this agenda is to be driven, it should be driven by Pan-Africanists. Yes. It should be given by the real Pan-Africanists, not William Ruto, who is just coming over here. But of course, I understand very well that he needs, the President of the Republic of Kenya needs that much of that publicity and the global presence. And that is why, at what cost, this is something that he is taking. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. I don't know, you can also share with me, why do you think we are moving out, but we are not ready to say the truth? We are masquerading the issue of jobs. Thank you.
Kwa hiyo organization yenu ambayo mmeamua mnasaidia watoto wenye wana disability. Pia nashukuru kwa hii wheelchair ambayo mmetusaidia nayo. Kama mimi nilikuwa already, watu walikuwa wananicheka kila wakati ni mtoto wako kwa mgongo. So nimefurahia kwa sababu Benjamin atakapokalia hii wheelchair itakuwa ni kazi rahisi, ni kumsukuma tu, nikimlete therapy, maybe nataka kuenda somewhere, ni kusukuma tu. Nashukuru kwa hayo ambayo mmetenda na mzidi kutenda, mbarikiwe sana. Ni hayo tu, na mbarikiwe.
Hata mimi naitwa Eva ama Njeri ama Mama Nancy. Nancy ndio huyu. Kwangu ni kurudisha shukrani kwenu. Juu ni wengi, watu ni wengi wangetukumbuka lakini hawakutukumbuka, lakini nyinyi mmetukumbuka na sisi tuko hapa tukisema ni asante. Mungu awabariki na waongezee wema.
Na mimi naitwa Sara Kemto, Mama Gloria. Gloria ndio huyu already amekalia wheelchair. Na mimi nashukuru Mungu kwa sababu yenu. Mungu amewatumia, mmekuja kutusaidia. Ndio watoto kama Gloria ni mkubwa, kumbeba kwa mgongo ni shida. Nashukuru Mungu, Gloria amepata wheelchair, ataendea shule Januari. Wacha Mungu awabariki. Mali hiyo pesa imetoka na Mungu airudishe. Mbarikiwe sana na Mungu awaongezee. Nimeshukuru. Thank you.
Yes, so yes, on behalf of this amazing team, asanteni sana. I'm just short of words. We mentioned that intervention ya disability, we will try to still upscale. Nimerealize kwamba the number of kids in need of wheelchairs ni wengi sana. We cannot, but I believe with this start, as we roll into 2024, we'll be able to support and develop this as a full program and support the team that we have here so that we move forward. Asante sana.